This is the Johnny Cleveland Podcast, all things Cleveland sports, with your host, John Suchan. Hey, good day, everybody, and welcome to the Johnny Cleveland Podcast. It is Sunday morning. I know you're surprised. I'm on in the morning for my Johnny Cleveland show. Haven't been on for a couple of weeks now. You've seen me because I'm part of the Fanatical Elves Network, and we do a bunch of other shows. And Steve Gill and I did our recent Fanatical Elves show on Friday. Actually, we usually do it on Thursday. I think Steve might be doing his show, Dog Pound South show, very soon as well. So you can catch me now, and then you can listen to Steve later. We're here live on TikTok, and not on TikTok, we're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, or the X. We are on TikTok. We do have quite a good following. Thank you. Shout out to all of those of you who follow us on TikTok, and we appreciate that. We're gaining more popularity on that site. So, well, if you are a Browns fan, we're about 10 days in to training camp, and it's been interesting. It got really interesting yesterday. That's all anybody can talk about. If you get on social media right now on the X or in Facebook or whatever in your social groups following the Browns and monitoring that situation, it's interesting. I don't know where things are going. I do think that we just have to wait and see. Steve and I talked the other night about how there's a lot of stuff out there that we read and we see on various social media sites, and that probably it's like probably the polar opposite of that within the confines of Berea and the coaching staff and all those people that are involved in making those decisions in regards to this team. Obviously, the big point, the big topic is about Shedeur and Deshaun and what's going to happen with that. I think we talked about this again the other night, and I've talked about this endlessly as well. It really is a waste of time with Deshaun. I think 90% of us, 95% of us Browns fans realize that, and we are pissed off a little bit, annoyed when we see all these things that are happening with Deshaun. And yesterday was another example of that. Supposedly, Shedeur was supposed to get the first reps with the first team, and an hour or something before practice started, Todd Monken, new coach, head coach, 60-year-old, first-time coach in the NFL, head coach. We'll talk about that here in a second. He reportedly said that Shedeur was still planning on getting those reps, but that quickly was not the case, and Deshaun took all of the first reps. Now, there's a lot building to that, and I've heard some other podcasters talking about this, and I agree with some of you out there also who are talking about why that possibly could be. I think someone mentioned, that Shedeur had taken 2 practices with the first reps in pads during their practices earlier in the week, that if he'd gotten that yesterday, that would have been 3 times, and Deshaun had only had 1 time with guys in pads. And so the explanation by the team after practice was that Monken wanted to see certain personnel with Deshaun, which is the first team. So here we are. The other part of this was that Dillon Gabriel somehow is now, like, people are clamoring about, oh man, maybe Dillon Gabriel's taking over the number 2 spot. That's not happening. I don't know, like, just stop. So Dillon Gabriel is a lifetime backup. Now, maybe Shedeur, some of you might think that Shedeur is a lifetime backup. I don't think so. And I think most of us who are watching this team and are cheering for this team and want this team to do well want to see what we got in Shedeur. Now, I'm not saying that Dillon can't do it, and I know he's had some glimmers of hope. We've seen some things in his past last season, but we definitely saw a change in how the Browns offense worked when Shedeur got in the games last year, and I don't think that that's going to change, and I think it's only going to get better with Shedeur. And again, you're wasting time. It really, and it's really what it comes down to, because we all know that Deshaun is not going to be here after this season. The way that the contract is built and whatnot. I know people have said, well, he'd be interested in signing again. No, it's not happening. We don't want Deshaun. The fan base doesn't want it. And if the front office and all those people up there can't figure that out, I feel really bad. And that's the depressing part as a fan, when you are cheering for this team that you have rooted for your entire life, and you feel like you're being ignored by those higher ups. The Browns are building this new stadium in 2029, and there's a lot of time between now and then. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if the Browns are going to go draft a quarterback next year in the 2027 draft, but it certainly is a waste of time if you plug in Deshaun Watson. And maybe their answer to that is they just want to plug him in at the very beginning of the season, so that Shedeur is given a few more weeks to sort of settle in, work on his footwork, work on his processing. So then by week 3 or 4, maybe then he'll run the table and play out the rest of the season. If I'm Todd Monken, 60-year-old guy who's been in the league for a long time as an assistant coach, he's bounced around, various places. He's worked in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson. Maybe that's where he's going with this. But a lot of us are baffled. I'm baffled again, because Deshaun is coming off of major, Achilles injuries, and we all saw what he was doing prior to him getting injured, and it wasn't good. They were 1-6. They sucked. He sucked. What's happening now is just odd, weird. And now this morning, I guess that's the other thing, to add to this story. Mary Kay, we all love what Mary Kay has to say, because Mary Kay is basically sharing probably what the Haslams are telling her directly. But according to this, the dogs podcasting, that you guys do a great job out there as podcasters. Thank you. It would be great to get a shout out from you guys down the line, about our Fanatical Elves Network. Mary Kay Cabot said this about Watson and Shedeur. She says that a source told her that Deshaun Watson knew he would be the first team quarterback on Saturday before Todd Monken told the media that it was Shedeur's day with the ones. As it turns out, quote, Watson knew right after the walkthrough at about noon that he was going to be with the ones on Saturday, which was about 45 minutes before Todd Monken came out and told everybody else that Sanders would be the number one quarterback. So again, and the dog podcasters, they said, this is exactly the type of stuff that gives the Browns the reputation of being a dysfunctional organization. And they're right. And it's what we, especially if you're a longtime fan like us and you've traveled with this team on and off. I mean, it has been tough. Now, I know a lot of you out there, there's a lot written locally and nationally about how this quarterback room is not very good, and we've discussed that. It is what it is. I don't believe that. I don't think that this Browns quarterback room is god awful, but I do think that if you're throwing again Watson in there and making these changes, and not telling the media, I don't know, like it is very confusing. Now, I don't know, like tomorrow, I think, is when Todd Monken speaks again to the media. So I'm sure there will be a boatload of questions and that he may or may not answer. We may like or may not like what he answers. I wrote an article this last week for Dog Pound Daily. I think it's coming out later today or tomorrow. Check that out. But it is about Todd Monken. And the article really was based on his, old school. He's, older guy bringing along or coming into this whole new school coaching. So old school coaching plus a little of this new school coaching, which has to do more with relationship building. They're all in about relationship building wherever you're at, right? Doesn't matter if you're in a business or a school or wherever you work or whatnot, or on a football team. It's all about building relationships. And that's supposedly, what Todd Monken has been doing. If you watch a lot of these videos and the interactions that he's having with his players on the field when they're practicing, and the way that he's coaching and he's interacting with these guys, he really is at least in those subtle moments, you can see, how he's really glued to his players, and he's really glued to trying to get inside the psyche of these kids who are much, they're 21, 23, 24-year olds. So it is something to admire and respect. We just don't know. Like at this point, he's never coached in the NFL as a lead. He's been the assistant. So this is all new to Todd Monken. There's a lot of talk about that and how it's going to actually play out. Right now, when you listen to the players, many of them are talking about how he is old school. He's a yeller. He's a screamer. Many of them will say like they're not used to that, or they see those usually with coaches that are coaching the defense, not the offense. I think Grant Delpit, had some experience with him going back when he was being recruited, when he used to play for LSU. He talked about that. And, you just see some of these other defensive players, Denzel Ward talking about Monken. And I think we've got a good coach. I do. But what's happened now in the last day or two and how it came about, and it's ruffled a lot of people's feathers this last couple of days. It'll be very interesting. I think somebody else was saying, one of the reporters on 92.3 was coming out and talking about, I think this is what a lot of us have experienced so far, is that, with this whole quarterback tracker and stuff, and I know quarterback trackers like Steve Gill mentioned are in his mind useless, because you're really not gauging, how much time did he have back there, on some of these plays, Shedeur Watson had been sacked, you would see that. But regardless of that, the Shedeur had been sort of in the lead, from everyone's takes, that he was doing well with the ones and the twos, and when he had his reps with these players, that he was looking to be the best during those first 6, 7, 8 practices. And then, Deshaun came in 2 or 3 days ago and he had a pretty good practice, and everybody's like, oh my God, I've never seen this Deshaun Watson before. It's a miracle. And then yesterday he's running with the ones. And like some of the other podcasters have said, I think this is a build up more toward him gearing it up maybe for the game this upcoming week when they have their first preseason game in Chicago against the Bears, as probably Deshaun Watson will maybe get that start. The likely scenario is in game 2 that the Browns would go with Shedeur. It's a home game against Buffalo. And that's the other part of this whole equation. The Browns front office has got to be aware that if they throw Deshaun Watson out there in a home game right now, or at any point, it's going to be completely crazy. You already saw what happened when he left the game injured, and the fans were booing. And earlier in the week, I know a former colleague of ours, and he does a great job with us at the office show, Noah Olson and his buddy. They were at the practice the other day, and they were saying like fans were booing Deshaun Watson at the practice. So it is something to be very aware of. And I don't know. I just, somebody else posing questions this morning, like, are you excited about the Browns season? I am excited about the Browns season. I think a lot of us Browns fans just naturally get excited at this time of the year. I think we're excited about the youth on this team, and the draft, some of these draft picks, Carson Schwarzenegger, some of the new guys that they've drafted just in the last, this last couple months. Spencer Fanow. Speaking of Spencer Fanow and their new trade, Jared Verse, who I'm also writing an article about why he's getting a lot of publicity. Obviously, he's replacing Myles Garrett, but he and Spencer Fanow got into a little scuffle yesterday at the end of practice. And, 2 days before, you saw Spencer Fanow and Verse practicing together, and Todd Monken speaking highly of both players and speaking highly of Verse and working with Spencer Fanow. And yet the heat of the moment got to both of them, and they got into a little, pushing match, throwing some fists yesterday. So good, bad. That's typical from what I hear, when you are at these training camps. And I mean, that things are going to boil over. So that's what we hopefully just saw there. I think both players are going to be great for the Browns. And that adds to this excitement about what this season could be for this team. But we come back to this quarterback decision that more than likely Todd Monken's going to announce at some point early this week on Monday or Tuesday that Deshaun Watson will be quarterbacking this team. Will he announce he's going to be quarterbacking the team long term or just this first game? The fact that if this is true, what Mary Kay is suggesting, that he told Deshaun Watson that he was going to be playing with the first teamers yesterday at practice, and yet he comes out and tells the media that that's not the case, that Shedeur was going to be starting. That is an interesting observation. And if it's true, I think Todd Monken has some to answer some questions and be honest about it. Does he have to give every detail? No, but if you're telling somebody one thing and then he does the opposite, it's quite the game that he's playing, which is, he can do whatever the hell he wants to do. He's a 60-year-old guy. He's been around the block a few times. I think, he's earned that, but it is annoying. And if, I know the local Browns media can be very annoying, and they ask a lot of uh, interesting repeated questions that can be very uh, just poor, and they're not good questions, and they can be annoying. So did he do it as a to kind of put a dig to the local media? I would hope not, for spite, but we'll see what happens. Just stay tuned, right? You're a Browns fan. You know that every day there's going to be something different. All right. Hey, let's pause here for a quick commercial break. This is the Jenny Cleveland podcast. Hey, thanks for returning. This is the Jenny Cleveland podcast. I'm your host, John Suchan, part of the Fanatical Elves Network. We appreciate you tuning in to our show. We're part of Fans First Sports, and I want to give a shout out. Let me see, to our local sponsors, if I can find that. Let me see. Where did it go? Right here. Here we go. So, Hemisphere Coffee Roasters, they shake the hand of the coffee farmer, and Sherry's Licorice. You can find both of them on their websites. They're scrolling on the bottom of our page right here. You can find the links also up on our X page, hemispherecoffeeroasters.com. They're a local company in Mechanicsburg, Ohio. Great coffee. My wife and I have been ordering from them for about 8 years now. And then Sherry's Licorice is Sherry's Licorice, how it's spelled, .com. They're a small little company. They're in Goshen, Ohio. They have a great deal going right now. If you listen right now to our show or watch us right now here on YouTube, you can use the link Els Network 15 and get a discount when you check out. Let me put that on the board here if I can find that. Bum, 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 bum. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. There it is. Use the code Els Network 15 for a 15% discount. So if you're checking out Sherry's Licorice, you get to the end, or make your order of delicious licorice. They got blue raspberry, they got watermelon, they got strawberry, they got cherry. It's amazing stuff. Just such an upgrade from your Twizzlers. Go there, check them out. You get a 15% discount if you order $25 worth of licorice. So just go ahead and buy $50 worth of licorice. And if you do that, you get free shipping as well. So we just bought, I think, another 6 or 7 bags, and I got a whole box full here. I got an unopened bag right here. Sherry's, this is cinnamon. So check them out. Awesome stuff. We'll be giving away more bags of Sherry's Licorice later this week, so stay tuned to the Fanatical Elves Network on that. I know one of our listeners just got a bag. We shipped that down to him last week, and he said the bag is already gone. So that's good to know. It's addictive if you haven't figured out. I mean, if you're a candy fan, you like licorice, you're not going to go wrong with Sherry's Licorice. All right, so let's move on a little bit. Just to, again, lots of things going on with the Browns. We'll know more later this week. The Browns do have a preseason game against the Chicago Bears, in Chicago, next week, Saturday afternoon. I think the game will be on the NFL Network, so stay tuned for that. The Indians, or the Guardians, they've been playing the Chicago White Sox this weekend, and they won the first game. They lost yesterday, even though they had their probably their best pitcher, Gavin Williams, on the mound. They got a 2-0 lead, but then he started to unravel in the sixth inning, and Chicago scored 5 runs in that sixth inning and went on to win it 6-3. So they're in there. They're like, I think, 3 games behind Chicago. They have an under 500 record right now. So Cleveland has some things to do. They did make some trades for some good players, but so far the team has not been responding. Jose Ramirez is still coming off of a major, not a major, but a slight injury. He's not been himself. He's not playing very well. They inserted him yesterday in the 8th inning to pitch hit, and he flew out to left. So we'll see what happens with the Indians or the Guardians. They'll be right there. I don't think that anyone's going to run away with this, but we are, in August. We have September to come up here, so the Browns or the Guardians need to get it going if they're really going to kick it in the high gear. And then I had a great experience Friday. I went down here to Columbus. The Haslams, who all of you guys love so much. They own the Columbus Crew, the soccer team down here in Columbus, and the arena that they play in, the pitch that they play on here for the soccer games is really state of the art. Scott Miracle Grove, or whatever they call it, the stadium, fantastic place, and I got to see the best parts of it. Colleague that I work with, Steven, at work, was kind enough to take a few of us to a game on Friday night, and he had he's in one of those nice luxury areas of the stadium where they also provide you some free foods, this and that, and boy, I was spoiled rotten. And some of you guys who go to the Browns games, you have those clubs within the Section 300, very similar setup, free food, free drinks, and different things like that. The seats are right there at midfield of the soccer stadium, and it's really plush and very, very cool. So, and the Crew down here, soccer is beloved by so many people across the globe. Obviously, Columbus, the fans here in Columbus love their soccer team, and I've been living here since 2018 and had not been to a Crew game yet, and it was a real treat. I got a hat, got a new ball cap. I'm not wearing it today. I'm wearing my dog pound, my elf hat, actually. But got a new hat, got a T-shirt represented. So next time I go to a Crew game, but I'll tell you, they have a whole section. They have a whole section that is literally people stand the entire game, and there's a whole group of people that play drums and percussion, and it is intense. Imagine, a marching band sitting in a stadium and playing the entire game. And that's what you have in Crew Stadium. It really does add a real flair to it. From what, when you're in these other countries in Europe and South America and you go to a soccer game, you oftentimes see this. We don't see it as often here in the games in America, but they do it up big time at Crew Stadium. It is something to really admire. And the Crew won the game 2-1, and they have a good team. They played a friendly, or a team from Mexico in this league that's down in Mexico. They came up and the Crew played them. So the Crew wasn't playing against teams like Cincinnati or who are already in their league. So it was something to admire, and I will definitely be back. All right, folks. Hey, let's stay tuned to what happens. Obviously, tomorrow will be interesting as Todd Monken gets interviewed a lot by the different media about a lot of things, especially with this quarterback competition. The Browns will have their first preseason game coming Saturday. So we will come to you with our Fanatical Elves show. Rod Bloom will have his Browns Blitz show. We'll be doing probably a pregame show prior to that game on Saturday, and a post-game reaction to that show. We'll be giving away free licorice, so stay tuned for that. I hope you've enjoyed. If you also watch our programming, I've become a food influencer. If you haven't figured that out, so we're doing some fun food reviews. Just did one at the Ohio State Fair, which is wrapping up, I think, today. Checked the Ohio State Fair out. Awesome stuff. Went there and tested some different items. My wife and I had a great time. Hadn't been to the Ohio State Fair. I don't believe I've ever been until this year. So it was a lot of fun. Did a lot of walking. Gonna try to get up to Wooster, my hometown, and check out the Wayne County Fair in a few weeks too. So look forward to that. Fair food is awesome, right? I had this they had these Oreos that were deep fried. They call them reverse Buckeyes. Oreos deep fried, and they had the peanut butter and like sugary stuff on the outside. They lather it up with, and oh my goodness, was that good. So we'll see what we do next. I did a food review on that new Wendy's pretzel bun burger thing, so I might throw that out for you guys to see. But yeah, we are doing a few more of those, so check those out, especially if you watch us on TikTok and YouTube. Please subscribe to our programming. We've got a great we're gaining popularity, like I've said before, on YouTube. We're up to around 500 subscribers now. We'd like to grow that. So if you could, if you're following us right now or you watch us on the X or Facebook, move on over to YouTube, follow us there as well. That would be great. Also, Facebook. We have our own Facebook page, the Fanatical Elves. You can check us out on the X here at the Elves Network, and don't forget about that code to go buy some licorice. Elves Network 15 to get that 15% discount from Sherry's Licorice. Everybody have a very good rest of your Sunday. I know I get to go back to school. I've been back to school for a couple of weeks, but our students start back later this week. So I look forward to that. Get back there and work with our awesome students. And we'll see you next time. Browns first preseason game is next Saturday. Go Browns. Take care. And remember, too, that's right. Keep smiling.